It's the middle of the night, 10,000 years ago, and Grug has a toothache. No dentist, no painkillers, no little tube of gel from the pharmacy, nothing. Just him, the dark, and a pain that will not stop. So what did he actually do? Because wait for a dentist was not on the table for the next 9,000 years. Here's the first surprise. Ancient humans actually got fewer cavities than we do. Way fewer. No sugar, no bread, no sticky sweet snacks feeding the bacteria that rot your teeth. Their mouths were weirdly kind of healthy. But, and this is a big but, their teeth had a different enemy. When farming arrived, people started grinding grain between stones, and little bits of stone ended up in the flour. Every single bite was like chewing sandpaper. Over the years, it wore their teeth flat, right down to the sensitive nerve inside. And once the nerve is exposed, that's the kind of pain that makes a grown caveman cry into a rock. So the pain was real, it was common, and it needed a fix. Which brings us to the single strangest idea in the history of the human mouth. For almost 7,000 years, humans agreed on what caused a toothache. It wasn't bacteria, it wasn't sugar, it was a worm. The oldest written mention shows up on a clay tablet from ancient Mesopotamia, around 5000 BC. The tablet tells an actual story. A worm goes up to the gods and asks what it will get to eat. The gods offer it fruit, sweet juice. But the worm says no. Give me the teeth. Let me live in the gums and drink the blood. And just like that, humanity had its villain. Your tooth hurts because a hungry little monster is living inside it, chewing away. And here's the wild part. This exact idea appeared almost everywhere. Egypt, China, India, ancient Europe, all separately blaming the same imaginary worm. Why did everyone land on a worm? Probably because tooth roots kind of look like worms, and some real parasites really did wriggle out of people. The brain connected the dots, just wrongly. And this is the key to the whole story. Because once you believe a worm is the problem, every cure you invent is aimed at one thing: getting the worm out. So let's look at what people actually did to that poor imaginary worm. Some of it was clever, some of it was horrifying, and some of it actually worked. The most popular worm eviction method? Smoke it out. Healers burned the seeds of a plant called henbane and funneled the smoke right at the bad tooth. And it seemed to work. Little white worm-shaped bits appeared in the ash. Proof the worm is dead, except those were just burnt seed husks. But here's the accidental genius. Henbane contains a natural numbing chemical. It didn't kill a worm. There was no worm. It quietly numbed the pain. So the ritual was nonsense, but the relief was real. That combo, wrong idea, right result, is basically the entire history of medicine. Of course, not every idea was a hidden win. To keep toothaches away, people tried carrying a dead mouse in their pocket, tying a frog to the jaw, packing the tooth with, we'll say, bird droppings and move on. None of that did anything. But when you're in agony and your only doctor is the village elder, you try literally everything. Some folk cures, though, were low-key brilliant. Clove oil still numbs teeth today. Willow bark contains the stuff we now call aspirin. Garlic, an actual antibacterial. They had no idea why these worked. They just noticed that they did and passed it down for a few thousand years. Trial, error, and a lot of suffering. Okay, numbing herbs and dead mice, sure. But you're probably assuming actual dentistry, drilling into a tooth, is a modern thing. It is not. In a place called Mehrgarh, in what's now Pakistan, archaeologists found human teeth with holes drilled in them. Neat, round, deliberate holes. These teeth are up to 9,000 years old. That's dentistry happening thousands of years before the wheel got common, before writing, before cities. Their tool? A bow drill. The same spinning stick they used to start fires and make jewelry beads, tipped with sharpened flint. The holes are tiny, 1 to 3 millimeters, and shockingly precise. These people knew exactly what they were doing. And it wasn't a one-time accident. They did this for 1,500 years. It was a tradition. A village skill, passed down like knowing how to hunt. Even wilder, the patients weren't kings or priests, they were ordinary people. 9,000-year-old dental care was, apparently, for everybody. Now, was it pleasant? Absolutely not. No anesthetic strong enough, a stone drill, and a friend holding your head still. But it meant relief was at least possible. But drilling only helps so much. Sometimes a tooth was too rotten to save. And then came the part everyone dreaded. It had to come out. For most of history, pulling a tooth meant brute force. Fingers, a string, later terrifying iron pliers, and absolutely no numbing. In medieval Europe, this wasn't even done by a doctor. It was the barber. The same guy who cut your hair would also rip out your tooth, often in public in the town square as entertainment. Traveling tooth pullers turned it into a performance. Loud music to cover the screams, a bit of showmanship, and a fast yank before you could change your mind. You can see why people held onto that dead mouse and hoped the pain would just go away on its own. But losing teeth created a whole new problem because a missing tooth isn't just painful, it changes how you eat, how you talk, and how you look. Which is why, about 2,700 years ago, one group of people did something genuinely stunning. They invented false teeth. The Etruscans in ancient Italy were master goldsmiths, and they used that skill on the human mouth. They took teeth from animals or even other people, mounted them into little bands of pure gold, and clipped the whole thing onto the healthy teeth around the gap. Here's the twist, though. These gold-banded teeth were mostly worn by wealthy women, and they were less about chewing and more about status. You couldn't really eat with them. They were a flex. A way of saying, I'm so rich, I have gold in my smile. The world's first grills, basically, 26 centuries ago. Some women reportedly had healthy teeth removed on purpose just to wear the gold appliance. Beauty standards have always been a little terrifying. From there, the idea never died. Egyptians wired teeth with gold. Later, the Japanese carved full dentures from wood. Every culture chasing the same dream, a mouth that works and doesn't hurt. But hold on, if their teeth were grinding down and rotting out, did nobody think to just clean them? They did, and they were at it a lot earlier than you'd guess. Around 5,500 years ago, the Babylonians invented the chew stick, a twig chewed at one end until the fibers frayed into a little brush. And they didn't grab just any twig. They picked specific trees, neem, and one so associated with this that we literally call it the toothbrush tree. Both are naturally antibacterial. They were brushing with a plant that fought decay thousands of years before anyone knew decay had a cause. The Egyptians took it further and invented toothpaste. Their recipe? Crushed pumice stone, powdered ash, salt. A gritty paste you scrubbed into your teeth. It worked. It also slowly sanded your enamel away. And then there are the Romans, who wanted whiter teeth, and discovered that the ammonia in urine is an excellent bleaching agent. Yes, they rinsed their mouths with it, imported from Portugal, apparently, because Portuguese urine was considered the strongest. That is a real sentence about real history. So no, they weren't helpless. They were scrubbing, rinsing, and swishing their way through the problem with whatever they had, which, for a few unlucky Romans, was somebody else's pee. So step back and look at the whole journey. From a caveman crying into a rock, to a bow drill, to gold smiles, to the clean, bright dentist's office we complain about today. It took us almost 7,000 years to stop blaming a worm and realize the real villain was invisible bacteria. 7,000 years. But the pain in Grug's jaw and the pain in yours? Exactly the same. The nerve hasn't changed in 10,000 years. Only the story we tell about it has. Every numbing herb, every horrifying yank, every gold tooth was one more step away from that first helpless night by the fire. So, what did ancient humans do about a toothache? They guessed. They suffered, they prayed to gods, blamed a worm, and chewed on bark in the dark. And slowly, over thousands of painful years, they stumbled their way toward every single thing that saves your mouth today. So the next time you've got a toothache and a dentist to call, spare a thought for Grug. He did the suffering so you wouldn't have to. I'm Prehistoria. See you in the next one.